recording. Welcome everybody to the Tuesday Mastermind to unleash your voice, how to speak up, show up, and thrive in your business. Welcome. We were just, we just lost Jeff. I bet he'll be back on.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, welcome. Today I wanted to talk to you guys. So, we're prepping for conference, right? We've got conference coming up. We are going to be overwhelmed with tons of people, new people to talk to, which is going to be awesome for our business. And the power just went off in Jeff's home. Until he can get power back on, he's not coming back. I don't blame him.
Phone?
Phone? But if you don't have any power, you don't have the ability to charge your phone. So the battery life is all you got.
Right, that's true.
So thinking about that, I was without power, last week or 2 weeks ago for like 4 hours. It was frustrating. But anyway, focus. Yes. Squirrel. Okay. So in meeting all of these,
I feel it.
Yeah. That's the reality, right? It is what it is. It's going to happen to you whether you're on stage in the 30-second promotional, whatever it is. We kind of get distracted, but the key is to always come back to center and focus, and then you can finish your thought, right? And make the point. So that's just something, it's okay when that kind of stuff happens. Know that. But in meeting all of these fabulous new people who are going to help you grow your business, it is good. There's one thing that you can do that's going to set you apart. We were talking last week about how do we set ourselves apart in the sea of sameness, right? And there's another way to do that, and that is to be a good storyteller. Okay, tell a good story. And there's a couple layers to that. So do you have a story that relates to your business and the results that you bring? And that, my friends, is how you take storytelling in your business to create loads of engagement, attraction, and then you gain clients. People want to know more about you. When you're able to link, you have a really, really good story, you tell it really, really well to the point, and it links to your business and the results that you bring. Now, my suggestion is you have not just one, but maybe 2 or 3 stories that serve the exact same purpose, but they will bring your audience to the same results. But here's the thing, your audience is going to change. So you're going to talk to a bunch of different people. And so who you're talking to, this is why I always like when we do the speed networking, I'd like them to go first, because that gives me an idea of who they are. And then I've got a couple stories in my head I know that I can tell. And I'm like, ooh, I need to tell this story to get them and make them. So have stories that you can say in a very succinct way, but it still takes them along their journey. Does that make sense? Okay, so these stories, of course, they need to be personal. This isn't when you start talking about testimonials of other people. Okay, this is when you start making things personal, because you are developing that know, like, and trust. They are connecting with you. And so having a personal story that they could actually see themselves in, right? So they're on your journey. They see themselves with you on this path. So consider your audience. So that's what I'm saying. Have a couple stories. I think about, I talk to moms differently than I talk to dads, than I talk to businesses. Okay, so there are 3 stories that I tell. Do you have those 3 stories? And if not, take a pause and write down 3 stories that make sense. We're going to be hearing from a variety of people. We're going to hear business owners. Okay, so we got men and women. We know those are 2 categories. Can you tell, is there a story that you can say to men versus women? or do they fit in the same box? We're going to be talking with business owners. We're going to be talking with employees, right? So they don't own the business, but they work in the business. We're going to be talking with entrepreneurs. We're going to be talking with solopreneurs. So you've got people who are single, right? They're individuals. And then we're talking with people who have maybe 10, maybe 100 people in their team. So having a couple stories that are in your arsenal, this is your toolbox, right? That can relate. So let's see, keep it personal. Consider your audience. So have a variety of them. And then what is your message? Okay, don't tell a story just to tell a story. So the story needs to have a purpose. What is your purpose? And it relates. So that what the story needs to relate to is the results you bring to your clients. It's not how you do it. It is what happens to them. Okay, you think about health and wellness, or you think about perfectionism, giving them more grace, right? Making them feel less stressed, healthier, sleep better, whatever the result is. So make sure that your story that you've worked on actually gives them the results, and the message in that they get. Does that make sense? So you've got to work on your communication so that they understand it. And then guys, if you need somebody to test, feel free to give me a call and says, okay, this is kind of one of my stories. But also talk with somebody else in the group, right? Or talk with your partner, a friend, and say, okay, here's the story. Does this make sense? What is this? Okay, can you listen to the story and then tell me what does this make you think, want, do after you hear it? So test your stories out. So make sure you're clear in your message. Also, don't make the story so much about you. This isn't the time to brag on ourselves, right? This isn't the time to say that we're all that in a bag of chips. That's going to turn people off. This story, we've only got a short period of time. You've only got a couple minutes when you're talking with somebody. The story needs to show how great you are without you saying how great you are. That's the power of a good story. So don't make it about you, make it about the journey and the results. Because that's what people are going to connect with. That's what they're going to say, ooh, I want some of that, or I know somebody who needs that. And then also when it comes to your stories, you don't need to share every single detail. Less is more when it comes to telling a story. You want to take them on a ride, right? You want them to be with you and locking arms on this journey, but they don't need to know every little detail, because at some point they're going to tune out. This is where This is where less is more. You want them to join you in this memory, not get lost in it. Okay, you tell them too much and their little brains are going to go like mine did earlier, squirrel, off on a little tangent, and they're going to grab things that are unimportant. So in creating a story that's consistent, that's concise, and that you pay attention to what you're sharing, keep it simple. And so you take them on that journey and lead them to the results without going squirrel. Okay. Pay attention to your eye contact. Eye contact is so important. I mean, body language matters too. So, if you're telling a story and you're off like this, or you're doing this, they're not going to listen to you. I'll tell you, one of the things that I learned early, being a psychology major and just knowing the way it works, when I really look at somebody, I also have a tendency, I'll touch their hand or I'll touch this, even now that we're coming out of COVID, okay, I still, I will do a shoulder or something like that. And I really reach out. That is a way of connecting. Okay, that goes deeper than the story. And eyes, I tell you, if you are able to maintain good eye contact with what you've got going on, there's another connection that's happening on a subconscious level that's so important. There's a lot of individuals who are visual. I'm bit visual, which our eyes go up and to the right. Okay, and that happens. But I also know people who sit there and talk like this, and then they're like back to this, and they're really talking to you about this great information. However, they're just wonder what's really going on, and they're like, what is on this? And I've done that. I'm like, what are they looking at?
Where's the bug?
Exactly. So it's so important. And and I'll tell you, as a speaker, one of the other things I do, I just got a new camera because my other one blew up. I keep an arrow next to where I'm supposed to look. Because especially when you're Zooming, I have a tendency to look down at you because this is where your faces are. But I don't look like I'm looking at you here. Now that I'm looking at my arrow, I know that I'm making eye contact with you. Okay, so where your eyes go matter. There's a connection on a subconscious level that is going to take it over. It's so important. Take it up a notch. That's what I was trying to say. I didn't finish that sentence. And pay attention to your tone of voice. Okay, so communication is 7% words. That's it. So your tone of voice, we talked about energy yesterday or last week. Energy is so important. That comes through your tone of voice. When you're really excited about something, your voice goes up a couple octaves. You have a tendency to speed up. You get a little more dramatic with your body language, things like that. You're very passionate about something, same thing. When you want to make a point, you slow down. And you be very solid in your tone of voice. But when you're kind of talking like this and you just don't really know what else to say, but it's a really important point, you're going to shut people down. Okay. So your tone of voice matters. Bring lots of water. Bring a big water jug because you're going to be talking so much that your voice is I have a tendency that I will lose my voice by the end of the 2 days. Just going to happen. I do a lot of talking, more talking and peopling than I ever do in a 48-hour period. So bring water. That will help you maintain that tone of voice. Yes, Wendy.
This sounds like a silly question, but I know this because I've been practicing recording my VSL. So silly question, but not silly. How do you deal with a tired tongue?
That's a mindset. Very good question, actually. That you've got to reground yourself and get centered. What happens is when your brain is going on one level and your mouth is on another. That's what I call it. And it's a matter of taking a breath and a pause and getting yourself. So spend a couple minutes just refocusing. And
because I can literally feel my tongue getting tired and then my words start blurring.
That's when that's when you need to break. You need to take a break, pause, and get centered and grounded again. Because your tongue's a muscle.
Yes.
Your brain's working, this is working, and they're going, and then, okay. Yep. So what I've had, where I can't, all of a sudden I'm like, and it's like, and I'm like, okay. And I've done this actually in front of a room with people. And so what I will do the joke and I will go, ha, da, ba, da, ba, da, ba, da, la, ba, da, la. You all understood that. Okay, now I need to get tongue tied. Taking a moment. All right, refocus. Now, what I was really trying to say was da, 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 da. And so doing that for a moment, and sometimes I have to hold my heart and I'll close my eyes and I do that cleansing breath. But I joked to the audience so that they laugh with me and not at me, right? Because we've all been there. And if they're laughing at me too, that's okay. But I'll make them laugh with me and just take a breath, realign, and move forward. Now, when you're doing a recording, you don't have to push through. Okay. So maybe taking a few more minutes, walk away. Sometimes when you're working on a project, when you're trying to solve a problem, when something's going on in your brain, you're constantly, and it's like you're getting frustrated, nothing's working, you're like, blah, everything you're saying is coming out wrong. Take a break, do something else, go outside for a walk. And it's funny, it's just next thing you know, you're like, ding, there's the solution in your brain when you stop thinking about it. Taking a pause when that's happening realigns everything and gets you back on the same page. So here, here, and here. Does that make sense? That was a really good question. And those were, okay, so let's see, what did I covered, okay, to recap, to be a better storyteller. So this is what we're doing, because we're going to be telling stories all day long, Friday and Saturday, is make it personal to create the connection. Consider your audience, so have multiple stories. What is your message? Make sure that the story is a connection to the message that aligns with the results that you bring in your business. So you got to be purposeful with this story. Don't make it about you. Make it about the process, the journey, and the results. So this isn't time to talk about ourselves. Don't share every detail. Too much can send people off on little squirrels. You want to remember, you do want them to get them on the journey with you. You just don't want them to get lost in it. And then pay attention to your eye contact. That's super important. And that takes some practice, quite honestly. And pay attention to your tone. So your tone of voice matters. So those were to recap, those were the tips that I had for you to help you tell your stories, because it's good to have a few. Feedback, questions. What you got for me? Anything? Want to add to it? Miss Laura.
I was just going to say, I agree with you. I learned when I went back to college between 2015 and 18 anyway, that I had to learn to just walk away, especially when you got that paper due, you're trying to write, you're trying to be creative, and you're about banging your head up against the wall. You feel like I don't have time. I got to get this done. It's due by such and such. But yet when you walk away and you give them those few minutes, like you said, it's like, boom, light bulb came on. It's like, I don't know why I was making that so hard. And you just finish it and it gets done. So, yeah, I will tell you, one of my other issues I've always had is, and I have to watch, you call it squirreling. And a lot of people tell me that I call it derailing. I can shift thoughts in the same sentence and it makes perfect sense to me. And people are like, okay, I don't know which is worse, that I can follow you now or that, because it'll remind me of something. And next thing I'm like, choop, and people are like, okay, where did that come from? It's like, okay, in my head, it made perfect sense to me. I just derail sometimes.
My husband does that, Laura. I call that taking a turn. So
I scare people when they start to be able to follow me.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's a talent. What can I say?
So the better, that happens to all of us. Now, some more than others, clearly, because you feel that. But what the next step to do is, okay, what was my original point? Can I bring it back? Because even as a speaker, that has happened to me on stage, and it doesn't happen as much anymore. I think when I was beginning, because I was so nervous, that I would let something kind of take me over and go zinger over to something else. And then I would forget. I'm like, go, wait, where, let me check my notes. What am I supposed to be on now?
Or if you get in that audience interaction and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're off on this whole other tangent, and then you got to try and get back to where you were. That's
right.
That's another challenge.
So that's why when you know your story, you know what you're going to say in those points. And this is what, Wendy, I've talked to you about being rehearse, because the audience can take you in a different direction. You're doing a one-to-one and they can ask a question that's going to take you in another direction. But you want to make sure that you maintain control over your conversation so that you share your value that's going to allow them to refer to you. So you got that squirrel moment, bring it back and say, oops, okay, that was a tangent. Let me come back to here because this is the point I was trying to make. Because it probably didn't come across. Whoa, we went off in a direction there. That makes sense?
I have a question for you. What tricks do you use to get over? Because I rehearse stuff and I rehearse it over and over, but I rehearse it in my head. And I know they say you're supposed to speak out loud, but I feel like someone's going to come after me with a straight jacket if I'm like just standing there talking and there's nobody. It's just this whole weird, I don't know if that's the introvert side of me that I'm fighting, because normally once I get up in front of people, once I get started, we can get going, I get there. But, because I'm an ambivert, I'm smack in the middle. So I have that constant struggle between the two. But, that's my whole little, thing. So I'll rehearse over and over in my head. Sometimes it comes out the way I planned. Sometimes it doesn't. I've learned to just roll with it, but.
And that's partly helpful, but I do talk out loud. You will see that, and typically before I speak, like my whole drive there, I will hit some punches. I typically will talk out loud the beginning and the end, because the middle is the story, and we know the story, right? We know that inside and out. The points, boo, 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 boo. It's the beginning where you want to get the momentum going, you want to get the energy going and all of that. And then how do you wrap it all up, right? To a nice little bow. So I'm in the car, I'm talking, or I record myself. I go on Zoom and I record myself and watch myself.
That's
I do it over and over and over. I love Zoom for that, because I want to see what you guys see.
Yeah, I forced myself to do that. I used to do the travel presentations back in Colorado Springs at IHOP, where I just went live. It came out how it was gonna come out, and I'd watch them to find out, what I was doing. And of course, you have that speech class thing in your head every time you say or you do this. And I've learned not to do, certain things, and I'm watching it. So to me, it was a little kind of painful, but at least, like you said, you can see what other people are seeing and fix things from there. Or you can have people like JB that are just bluntly very blunt with you. So I went through a speech class, and I showed him one of my videos. I was always proud because I'm like, look, I've been getting this. Everybody's been loving my presentations. He stops watching. He goes, this is travel. It's supposed to be fun. He goes, there's nothing that makes me want to keep watching that. You don't look like you're having fun. It's because I'm focused on getting the points across and talking. And I was so focused that I wasn't really smiling. I was just concentrating on what I needed to get out. And I'm like, okay, good point. So it helps to have people point those things out for you, even if it is painful. It's the only way you can fix it.
So Laura, I see in the background, you've got E360 TV. When does your show launch?
July 24th.
Nice. So
You will see this at conference. I'm already lining up speakers. I've already got speakers
yeah, baby.
for my first episode. I'm doing physical self-care first. So
Nice. So I'll tell you, that is a great place to practice doing stuff, because you can go into StreamYard anytime you want and go and record yourself and see how it sounds and play it back for yourself. I do it all the time. I go back and watch previous shows all the time because I want to make, because I think, oh, how did that go? Did that come across the way it came across in my head? you know, because it almost never does, but sometimes it does. But that's a good way to practice too. That's the cool thing about it. You've got it all right there. You can just watch it, record yourself and do it. So.
Yeah, well, right now, the ones I've been doing for free out of my Facebook group and on YouTube and stuff, you know, I watch it and I don't particularly like my own voice and how it sounds and it comes across, but it's me. That's not much I can do about that. So, but I did like it. Mine didn't blow up, but I did get a new camera. Actually has its own little ring light around the camera, so I don't have to mess with a ring light.
All right.
I'm just practicing again at staring up top, because before I had put it on a tripod right in front of the computer screen, but then I had to go like this and look around for the control. So I'm like, okay, we just have to train to go up.
Yeah.
So I'm just, you know.
Yeah, I think when we're all at conference, I think we should all just have a little powwow with all the people that are doing that and be like, okay, what's working for you? What's working for you? Because I'm sure, I mean, nobody knows everything, right? So learn from people.
You're talking to someone that, first of all, in school would pretty much black out. I got a D for speech.
Oh,
I was so terrified to be up in front of other people. But the thing is, other people don't know that, you know, but in school I get a D because, and if I was holding a paper to read, you would hear the paper rattle. And I can tell you at one point in time, the whole room went black. I don't know how I didn't hit the floor, but I loved interpersonal speech in college because I didn't have to give a speech, you know, but then when I went back in college, I did. But I learned in networking groups. It used to horrify me, and I'd be sitting there shaking so bad I couldn't pick up the silverware. But when they asked me to be like a VP or something, I'm like thinking, now I got to get up and talk even more. It's like, you know what? Nobody else knows that I'm not afraid, that I'm afraid to do this. So we're just going to stand up and do this like I know what I'm doing. I know how to flow goes.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes time. It takes a lot of time. I'm still not, there's still always those jitters. And I think probably even Kathy or other people that have spoke a lot still have a certain amount of jitters. I'm not sure that you ever totally get rid of that, but
yeah.
Or the, you know, 13 bathroom trips, because all of a sudden you pee like crazy before you talk, but other than that.
See, and the reality is you don't know that your body doesn't know the difference between fear and excitement. Okay, it is the same chemical reaction. So as an introvert, yeah, I would shake like this. I did BNI purposely to get over my fear. Because you had to. Every week you have to get a 30-second. You just had to. Every single person in that room had to do it. And I used to write it all out first, right? And shake. And then the more you speak, the better you get. And you will never feel 100% comfortable. And you're never going to go, yeah, right? This is awesome. You may say, oh yeah, I'm a little nervous, but I'm more excited. The reality
I did learn to stop getting upset if it doesn't come out the way I planned, because I used to get really pissed because it's like, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that, I wanted to do this. And
right.
The more I watched even your most professional people, watch them, they fumble, they ain't perfect either. So I'm like, you know what? It's me. You're either going to resonate with me or you're not. It's okay.
Some of them do it on purpose. Literally, they plan it in the, I was trying to remember, I think it was Liza Minnelli, of all people, right? Back in the day when she was doing all these stage shows and stuff. I think Vanessa was telling me this, so everybody here has probably heard it, but she would literally time it and plan it where she drops her microphone sometime during the show, during the same song, every show. She drops her microphone and picks it up and winks at the audience and carries on, you know, and like everybody that like two people saw her show within a week of each other, exact same thing, exact same time, just to make yourself relatable, you know, because people think you're perfect when you're on stage and you're not. So, I mean, my wife is amazing. This is how we do the show every time. We type this out. Segment 1, segment 2, segment 3. Otherwise, I'm going to be lost. I don't know. Write it down. Do what you got to do. I've got like a little stand here I put stuff on so I can see it right there without losing eye contact. I mean, you set up whatever you have to set up. All they're going to see is what they see on the screen. They don't care about the rest of it.
Yeah, they might see your eyes drift to the side or that, but I've noticed other people kind of, you know, drift around or they're moving,
but you know, like got one of these, just sit there behind the computer. And then I don't have to ever wonder what I'm going to say next. Because that's where
Well-
it gets dicey.
And I've heard people, speakers even say, if you see me glancing to the right, I just want to make sure I don't miss any information that I have to give you.
That's what we tell every single guest before we hit the go
Yeah,
live.
people
button.
are like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's
Yeah,
not because I don't want to hear what you have to say. It's because I want to make sure we don't completely trip and fall on our face. Yeah.
see, now me and my whole thing is, well, for one, all of mine are gonna be pre-recorded. I'm not gonna go live with them, and for that, for a couple of reasons. For one, if you should have weather internet interference, it's not all blotched up for the recording that's gonna go on the thing. We could always reschedule another day and
Yeah.
redo it, because those are struggles, they're real. And to make things sure everything's smoothly. But my thing is to introduce them, have a couple of questions ready, but for the most part, just go off the cuff and flow with it.
Nice.
I don't know, maybe Kathy, you can speak. I don't know if you've ever had well, I'm sure you've had people. I had like a lady that asked me to be on the podcast. She wanted my headshot, my bio, 5 questions. I had it all prepared in my head. I go to get on her podcast. Well, at the time I had HughesNet, so the internet was not good. I don't know if you remember when I used to go, that's how the thing was working, and it was raining. It made it worse. And so I was all prepared because my questions led from my bio that she was supposed to read, but she didn't read it, even though it was short. She said a couple of words and boom, threw it at me. Didn't even ask me the question she sent me. I was so totally derailed, and now I'm scrambling to come off professionally to do this, and I'm like, so I hate planned things, and most people I've talked to don't like them planned. It's like, let's just have a conversation, be real, get the information out to people and go.
Most of the time, that's what we do, but I have to have that to just keep myself on track,
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
but I mean, no, I agree. That's what I tell people too. It's just a conversation. Don't be scared. It's not, we'll fill an hour like this, I mean, people think it's going to be so hard, but it's not.
Yep,
So-
I just make it clear that it's an online TV show. This is a paid spot. It's paying to speak, it's paying for sponsors, it's paying for ads, because this is costing me money. I'm not doing this for free for everybody. Certain people, sure, there's things we can exchange and do, swaps, but
Yeah.
depends on what the people are and what we got going.
I mean, we had one show where literally 3 minutes before it went live, our entire neighborhood lost power.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Another reason why I
So
want it recorded.
when power came back, we picked up where we left off and started the show about 15 minutes late, and we didn't have a live audience anymore, but but it's still there. It's a little shorter, but it was a good show, but you got to roll with it.
You do.
I love it. All right, to bring this back.
Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
okay. No, but like you were saying, so when you're being interviewed, there are times where things aren't going to go as planned and you're going to get derailed. So, but if you have 3 good stories stored in your noodle that are in alignment with your business, your message, and the results that you bring, you will always be prepared for that conversation, and you are always going to attract people to your business. So if you take nothing else away, know that you create those 3 stories. You have great stories. You've just got to set them aside, take time to really cultivate them. If you don't already, cultivate 3 quick stories and then be prepared to start using them in 2 weeks. Does that make sense? All right, thank you guys. This was awesome. I appreciate you guys sharing all the tips with the live TV and everything. You guys are awesome. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Probably not. I will be in Colorado. I leave for Colorado Thursday morning, and I'll be spending time with my mom before conference.
So you won't be here on Tuesday?
Probably not, because I already have a couple other meetings and I don't want a whole lot of it attracting